Now guys, a couple weeks ago I put out a video on 3 separate ways to analyze rental properties and look at rental property income and how to look at a property to see if it's a deal or not. And those are the 1% rule, the net monthly rule, and the ROI percentage rule. Now, I'll put that link below the video, guys, in the description. If you want to watch that after this video, go check it out. But what I want to talk about today is why the 1% rule is one rule that you should not be using. And this is the default one for a lot of people because it's easy. And a lot of people understand this. So quickly, here's what the 1% rule is. Okay, guys, here it is. Here's what the 1% rule says. The 1% rule is a guideline frequently referenced by real estate investors when evaluating potential property purchases. This rule of thumb states that the monthly rent should be equal to or greater than 1% of the total purchase price of an investment property. Now, a lot of people say 1% of total all-in costs. It just depends on who you're talking to. So let's say your total all-in cost on a property is $100,000. 1% of $100,000 is $1,000. That should be your rent. So take your rent, times it by 100, and essentially that is what you should be all in on these properties. So that's the 1% rule. I do not like it, and here's the reasons why. Okay guys, now that you've read that, if you weren't aware of what the 1% rule is, you are now, and here's another way of looking at it right here. Let's say you're all in $100,000, your acquisition, your repair, your carrying costs, every single cost you have, you're $100,000 all in. To have the 1% rule be in effect, you would have to rent that property for at least $1,000 a month. 100,000 divided by 1,000 is 1%. So that's the 1% rule. This is what a lot of real estate investors use, believe it or not. Now it varies quite greatly for many reasons. That's what I want you guys to understand. The 1% is variable and it is not accurate enough. It's very risky and it's never gonna get you to a long-term successful business. And I don't know a single really successful real estate investor that built their whole career buying properties off the 1% rule. They did it off these other two. So the net monthly rule, guys, just to recap, also go check out that other video. I'll put a link below in the description. The net monthly rule is, what is your net monthly desired amount and you back into it? You run your PITI, you go get your taxes, and you back into it with an amortization calculator. We have other videos talking about this. But let's say your desired goal is 250 net, 500 net, 400 net. You're backing into the numbers trying to figure out what you want as a business owner to clear as a net monthly cash flow. That's a very common way of doing it. Most people try to stay around 300. The other way is ROI, return on investment. So let's say that we have a property that clears $300 a month net cash flow. I'm making positive cash flow, $300 a month after everything, all my expenses and all my liabilities. Now let's say when I refinanced that property or went into the loan, I left $10,000 of my own cash in that property on top of the original loan. So if I'm making $300 a month by 12, that's $3,600 a year into $10,000, which is a 36% cash on cash return. So that's how we're gonna go about the ROI method. So let's get back to the 1% rule and look at all these variables right here that can change so quick and so rapidly that makes the deal different, even though it could be the 1% rule. And that's gonna make sense in a second. Okay, taxes. So let's say in all these case studies, we're gonna have two different investors that are doing the exact same thing and they're getting into the property at a 1% rule, but two different properties, okay? Let's say they're both all in 100,000 and then they both have $1,000 rent. But over here, this guy's in a different part of the town. This guy's on the west side and this guy's on the east side. They're still all in, but over here, taxes are $3,000 a month. Over here, they're not $3,000 a year. Over here, they're $1,800 a year. Be ridiculous if it's $3,000 a month. $3,000 a month. Can't even talk right now. But you guys can see, because taxes vary, this can't be the same thing, even though on your calculator, you're saying I'm all in 100,000, I'm all in 100,000, we're both gonna rent for $1,000 a month. But because different taxes, it makes one deal better than the other one for the other person. Same thing with rent rates, right? Rent rates can change quite rapidly as well. And so on different sides of town, you could have over here, $1,200 a month, over here, $1,350 or $1,400 a month. Same type of property, same cookie cutter house, same size, just different areas because one's by a better location and one's off getting outside the edge of the city towards the secondary markets, right? So things can change quickly based off rent rates. So if rent rates vary and taxes vary, but this is a static number that's based off a percent, 1%, that means the deals are different even though they're going off the same rule. Does that kind of make sense, guys? That's why I don't like this. Now this one right here is a big one, number 3, equity. So this has nothing to do with equity. Now some people are gonna try to make their argument, well, I take it into account. Guys, let's look at this real quick. Let's say two different investors are all in on $100,000, or all in $100,000 on the same on a similar property, okay? But this one has $125,000 valuation and the other one has $150,000 valuation. So one has $25,000 in equity, one has $50,000 in equity, right? And let's say there's a third one that has paid $100,000 for a house that's appraised at $100,000 and they have 0% equity, okay? So we still have three people using the 1% rule. They're all in 100,000, but one's got 25K of equity, one's got 50K of equity, one has no equity, but they're all renting it for $1,000. So how can that be a good way to analyze rental property and analyze a deal as an overall deal to get to a real long-term net ROI and opportunity cost on should you do this deal over another deal, right? So this doesn't take into account equity positions because it's not going off a return on investment and overall project opportunity, okay? And the last one down here, guys, is payments. Payments by the investor. This varies by investor. You could actually have the same house, same all-in 100,000, literally the same house, but because one investor put it on a 15-year loan, the other one put it on a 30-year loan, different deal now, changes up the numbers. Or what about if you could only get a 5% loan versus a 3% loan? So the reason why I don't like going off the 1% rule, guys, is because it varies too much and there's too many different working parts to it that can change that makes the deal better or worse. And if you're going off a static number, 1% based off your all-in cost, it's kind of opening yourself up to have a lot of long-term failure and making a lot of mistakes. So what I like to do is to look at both of these in conjunction with each other. And if you guys want to go watch that video where I break it down a little bit more in detail about these other three strategies, all three strategies side by side, go check that out, guys. I hope you liked today's video. If you did, like the video, subscribe to the channel, guys, share this video around. I appreciate it. I'll see you on the next one. Have a good day.